Shalom. So this is Genesis 22 and verse 18, and it says, "And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice." Now, sometimes we read this, and the way we process it is to say that we only read all the nations. That's the only thing we get. But there's a key word. It says thy, meaning yours. In your seed. So that means there are nations in his seed and there are nations outside of that, right? So he's talking about Abraham. So there are people in his lineage, his descendants, but there are other people that are not of his lineage, right? So he says, "In thy seed shall all the nations," the keyword, "all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice," because you, Abraham, obeyed my voice, right? Now let's go to get more information on this. Let's go to Sirach 44. It says, Ecclesiasticus 44 and verse 19. It says, "Abraham was a great father of many people, as in many nations," because that was the blessing from Genesis chapter 12. He would make him father of many people, right? Of many nations. So it says, "Abraham was a great father of many people. In glory was there none like unto him, who kept the law of the Most High and was in covenant with him," because the Most High made that covenant first with Abraham. "He established the covenant in his flesh, and when he was proved, he was found faithful. Therefore he assured him by an oath that he would bless the nations in his seed." Again, there are nations in his lineage, his descendants, and there are nations that have nothing to do with the lineage of Abraham. Right? So it says that he would bless the nations in his seed. Because remember, one of the nations in his seed, the Levite, Judah was in it, Benjamin, Issachar, Asher, etc. Right? And that he would multiply him as the dust of the earth, and exalt his seed as the stars, and cause them to inherit from sea to sea, and from the river unto the utmost part of the land, meaning all over. With Isaac did he establish likewise. So the same thing he did with Abraham, he did it with Isaac, right? So Abraham told Isaac about the place. He went by faith to go there and had his own experience, right? And it says, "For Abraham his father's sake, the blessing of all men and the covenant, and made it rest upon the head of Jacob." So also, just as Abraham taught Isaac, Isaac taught Jacob. And it says, "and made it rest upon the head of Jacob." So that was where it was established in the spirit throughout the descendants of Jacob. That's where the nations came, right? It says, "He acknowledged him in his blessing and gave him an heritage." What is the heritage? "And divided his portions among the 12 tribes did he part them." So the nations that it was talking about were the 12 tribes of Israel. Now, regarding heritage, what was the heritage that he gave unto Jacob? Let's go to Sirach 17, verses 11 and 12. Beside this, he gave them knowledge. and the law of life for an heritage. So you remember in Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7, he says, he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. Same thing that he did with Adam, same thing that he did with Moses when they left Egypt. He gave them the laws, statutes, commandments, the judgments. The same thing all the way down, right? He made an everlasting covenant with them and showed them his judgments. He did not show all the nations of the earth. He was dealing with the nations inside the seed of Abraham. Now it says he made an everlasting covenant with them and showed them his just judgments. Who did he show the judgments? Let's go to Psalms 136. Hold on. It says Psalms 147 and 19. He showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his commandments unto Israel. So it's talking about Jacob. It's talking about the 12 tribes of Israel. So that's where the blessing that was passed on from Abraham went to. It went to the 12 tribes of Israel, not all the nations of the earth, not all the descendants of the earth. It was one specific nation which 12 tribes emerged out of, right? Shalom.